일단 이번 여름에는 지난 봄의 악몽을 다시 재반복하기 싫어요. 그리고 더 높은 곳에서 더 넓은 세상을 바라보고 싶습니다.
봐주셔서 감사하고 앞으로 이제 재밌고 뭐 멋진 경기력 보여드릴 테니까 많이 이제 MVP 경기 뭐 롤챔스 봐주셨으면 좋을 것 같아요.
집중이 그냥 계속 처음부터 끝까지 잘 되고 있어가지고 뭐 실수 같은 것도 그렇게 별로 크게 없을 것 같고 그냥 항상 비슷한 모습을 좀 보여드릴 것 같아요.
MVP 경기도 이번에 또 이제 열심히 준비를 해서 오늘처럼 깔끔하게 이기도록 하겠습니다.
I know you can pull me through the dark. There you go again, saving my soul again, turning on the lights again.
Welcome back, guys, to another great day of LCK here at SPO TV. Reveal yourselves, Twitch chat, and the rest of the teams that are going to finish off this first week of League of Legends. I am Valdez. With me is Papa Smithy, as always. How are you feeling at the end of a long week for you?
Feeling good. We still have one more match day. Excited for this first one because Gen.G have really, against expectation, embraced the new meta. Haru, the man on the right of the little graphic here from SPO TV, has been a real treat after a spring where he wasn't playing his old style. He was popping off. He was aggressive. Camille seems like a must ban against him. An MVP, a very high against BBQ, a low next time out. What will we see today? Will it be competitive or will it be one-sided? I think the one-sided votes are going to be higher, but let's hope MVP can show something.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about them coming in and using their weird strats, you know, have Max come in and do some kind of weird new support role. Will they try to do some kind of cheese as well? You know, throw Ian on Taric once again. Maybe Yondu can do a bit of carrying, but definitely seems like Gen.G is the big-time favorite coming into this one. The second match is going to be interesting, though. Jin.Air versus Hanwha Life will be coming up later today. I feel like that one should be a bit closer.
I mean, even when you and I were talking about our expectations for that match, it sounded like there was a pretty big disagreement. I mean, schedule and strength of schedule is something we already discussed. The meta still up in the air. Even the starting jungler for Jin.Air, Kakao, really did struggle, so we're expecting Umti to be back in the lineup. The what-ifs are still real. It's still the first week here. EULCS, I know, just finished. We're still just finishing out our first week, and yet the meta still all over the place.
It's all over the place. I mean, it's here in competitive. You'll see not just in Korea, but across the sea, right? You look at NA, you look at EU. There's all sorts of weird stuff coming in. Heimerdinger, you got Lux in the bot lane.
Yep.
That's been working out too. Tried that in solo queue. That worked for me. Lux Shen is my little tip. I really enjoy that combination. But it's really fun. As we were saying, you know, it's all about how everybody's trying to figure out the meta and what is going to be the new, you know, standard, essentially. As long as this does stick, we'll see what happens when, you know, 2-3 patches come along, though.
And just because we have more match days, we have one-day metas. For example, yesterday, Swain priority way higher than any other day. We've had Mundo also go up and down. So the rises and the falls and the fact that the agreement isn't there is exciting. It also means that sometimes the play gets a little bit sloppy because players are clearly playing stuff they don't have lots of games on.
Yep. So, guys, we are going to go ahead and introduce our teams for today. MVP over in the left side in their blue and white, looking to bounce off the loss against Griffin. Looked really good against BBQ, but again, BBQ down towards the bottom of LCK so far. So trying to prove themselves that they're not just the team that's going to only defeat the bottom rungs of LCK.
See how MVP are looking today. Roster-wise, Maha is out. Pilot is back in. Max also back in. There was that double substitution as they brought Pilot and Motive in the bot lane. Honestly, didn't really make much of an impression. It was a very one-sided series, so Can't really read too much into that series against Griffin. Just wanting to show more today. Show a good performance, show where they're at, because they're actually one of the few teams when it comes to Korea to really focus on the marksman in the bot lane role. They haven't been playing the Mordekaiser, the Deft, and Prey have been playing so much of.
Yeah, avoiding that, a couple of games of Lucian and one of actually Lulu for Pilot. And yeah, just sitting at 6th here. They say we fight, come and fight against us. It's basically what they're saying. You know, we want a team fight, and yeah, MVP definitely not one of these teams to avoid aggression and team fighting or fighting in general. So they generally make for a pretty fun team to watch, even, you know, through their successes and their failures. Whereas Gen.G in the past was kind of boring, to be honest, in that old meta. But on the new meta with Haru, they're all about aggression.
Haru and Fly are the new names when it comes to their current starters, and here they are, your world champions, Gen.G. Almost felt like that title was ironic at times in spring when they were really struggling and off the pace, but right now it is imposing. Gen.G are an imposing team. You speak to Korean pros, and when they're rating the top teams, they include Gen.G there, and say even in scrims, they have also been really performing. Their style's a bit different. They're more about focusing on a favorable matchup for Ruler and Core JJ, allowing them to play an AD carry as safely as possible. We still have seen no non-marksman from Ruler. However, in solo queue, he has been practicing them, so he knows backs against the wall, enough AD carry bands. He is ready to rumble on some of those other picks.
Especially the Rise, you know, kind of that sustained damage from the bottom lane. It's magic instead of, you know, physical, but it's pretty cool. I like this position that Fly has taken for himself in the mid lane. He really has truly taken that over, kind of out of the grasp of Crown, which, you know, some of the fans do like, some of them do dislike, but, I mean, he earned the spot, right? He came in, we weren't sure what to expect, came out here, and he's crushing face on pretty much everything that he plays, even the Braum that one time.
And Fly is definitely his own man. We came into the makeup room today, and he was blasting K-pop, super loud in the room. Normally Koreans, of course, very reserved, but he is not reserved. He likes to talk, he likes to have fun, and honestly, if he keeps winning, he's going to get to play it louder and louder, talk louder and louder. That's what happens in Korea. If you win, you've got a voice. And right now, Fly, he's got a loud voice.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned it, because at the same time as he was blasting the music, Crown was actually napping on the couch. So definitely shows the difference between those two mid laners right now. And MVP never avoids the fight, is what you should be looking at. And yeah, they essentially do not.
Seems like our translator was a little bit off the boil here. Now, Naver is a big thing in Korea. That is like Google, I guess. The Naver search and the Google search. So an understandable mistake over in Korea. But they're looking to fight. They're looking to scrap. And honestly, scrapping early against a Gen.G team who are kind of slowly getting Ruler and Core JJ going, outside of Haru potentially popping off, there is some windows to try to attack them in the early game. Let's see if MVP can find those windows. Otherwise, we're all looking at Gen.G to add another victory to that total.
You'll notice how the damage per minute is very high, second here in the LCK so far. I feel like a lot of that had to do with getting Yondu fed on the E in their games against BBQ and just crushing them. So then you go ahead and you look at Gen.G's stats, and they say we dominate in the early phase, 3,515 gold difference at 15, the highest in LCK.
Now, this is a little bit facetious because Kingzone kind of threw games in the early game against them. Both those games against Kingzone, their two victories were massive victories where they were up 18 to 20 kills against Kingzone, and the game ended pre-25 minutes. So their stats are definitely inflated, but if you just want to look at it and be results-orientated, plus 3,500 gold on the only team who's playing marksman every game is pretty insane.
Yeah, the KDA is really high, and the average game time is the lowest. I would assume that's what 10th means rather than first. 25 minutes, so very quick for them, and I'm glad we get our own slide here for Fly, because he's back with outstanding skills.
And he's a big boy. 16.67 KDA, including a loss, is a pretty big number. He's averaging 0.6 deaths a game. This is not the Fly that we knew years ago. It's not like he left Korea and covered himself in glory. He wasn't able to get promoted on Goldcoin United to the LCS, and also had his struggles on FlyQuest last season. He's been very good, and now we look over to the side of MVP, and that's not actually Beyond or Yondu, that's Pilot. There he is! There he is.
Oh boy, an imposter in the booth. Did you see my Master Yi carry? I'm sure Pilot wishes he was allowed to play Master Yi in the bot lane. But yeah, did you see his E? Did you see Camille for Haru? Is essentially the name of the game here. Could be a battle of the jungle duos. We'll have to see what kind of strategies these two teams go for and if they can really unlock their junglers. I feel like it's easier to get Haru unlocked.
Yondu was talking some mess to the cameras, didn't quite catch it there, and even my limited Korean, who knows how far I would have gotten into, but look at the numbers. The plus 1239 gold, again, facetious, because hyper-inflated by his first game of the season when he would have been up a immeasurable amount of gold in the funneling strategy that they were pulling off, and I saw the Camille strategy as well coming through from Haru. That was, of course, Braum Camille that they kind of hodgepodge together and only funneled because they kind of had to try to deal with the Yi. So we have our best Yi versus our best anti-Yi. And that's going to be very fun, so why don't we leave it open and see where the chips do lie.
That's the idea here. We've been talking a lot about Fly. Even Ian himself has been popping off a little bit, you know, looking pretty decent in the mid lane too. But guys, we are ready for pick and ban for game number 1, so let's jump into that now. We're back here with the Valdez's favorite song. Wasn't able to get the name of that, by the way. I was asking for that earlier, but still don't know the name. I'm sure somebody out there does know.
It really needs to be in my gym playlist. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
I could run a mile to this. Speaking of who's not going to be running a mile, it's Singed. He's not going to be able to hop on his Nimbus cloak, press ultimate, and dash all over the rift with his movement speed. He's going to be on the ban list. ADD playing him in their last game. ADD still getting a lot of respect. Remember, his solo queue play in Challenger got him rank 1 in the past 10 days. I'll actually have to check to see if it's changed in the last 24 hours. Maybe FLICKR rage solo queued and got to rank 1, I'm not sure. It was rank 2 last time I checked. And double ban against Core JJ. What I want you guys at home to know, if you're on the VOD, you wouldn't have heard this yet, I talked about it a bit yesterday, is that Gen.G have been one of the few teams to put all their eggs into counter-picking bot lane, not first-rounding bot lane where possible, trying to get a really powerful marksman lane where they can. And on red side, you do have the ability to counter-pick AD carry or the bot lane carry role and support. We'll see if they stay to that trend, but so far that's how Gen.G have found their big advantages, setting up Ruler to carry. A lot is open in this draft. A Lulu first pick over Taliyah is a recent thing where Taliyah priority has gone down, even though Taliyah is 100% contested and has not lost.
Yeah. Gen.G looking to continue that streak with the hover on Taliyah and the eventual selection here. Also, I mean, we talk about flex picks in this new meta. Lulu is one of the biggest, right? It can go pretty much anywhere at this point, even the 80 carry role. And look at this!
Oh,
we are
baby,
gonna
we're
have
getting
Yi Taric coming back! We already have Braum on the other side, too, so we could have a bit of this once again, guys.
I'm clapping. It's what I wanted. I want to see the best team playing Mata, which is Master Yi Taric, and also a great name in Korea. And we're going to see Gen.G have to react to it. That's probably a rise in the bot lane as well. We're getting some new meta right now.
It's happening, guys. And with the Braum, I mean, you never know, right? The Taliyah is, everybody talks about how it's great in the jungle, but we've seen 2 games in the LCK where it's gone mid, so I guess that takes a little bit of priority away from Braum going into the mid lane too. We really just have to wait. I mean, these 3 champions can go literally anywhere, and that's the best part about this meta.
And look, Ruler may be chibi and also giving a peace sign to the crowd, but he may also not be on the bow today. There may be no marksman play coming out of Gen.G. Fly is an old school Rise and Taliyah player, so we'll wait and see what the decision is there. Looking at some highlights of Yondu pressing R and running at people. The Gen.G fans probably right now are a little bit concerned. The draft hasn't revealed itself. Braum early rotation was saying, hey, we want to be ready if you're going to be going for this Master Yi Taric. Could potentially be ready for it. Camille ban actually comes through from the side of Gen.G. Very interesting, given that it would have to be a top lane Camille, given they already have the Master Yi.
Yeah, and speaking about AD carries,
All right.
we're going to have our Ashe locked in, and Ashe not necessarily a flex pick, Papa.
So that means that Haru is going to jungle Talia, which would fit into his current champion pool of can I mess someone up 1v1 or not? So far he's played Camille Xinjiao only. And he's going to be moving on to the Talia. Now the game will reach a time where if Yi has hit critical mass, he will laugh at Talia, an instant killer, short of a W popping him back. But very interesting. Is the Braum going to be going into the mid lane or the bot lane? That is not clear yet either. MVP pick up Pilot's champion. It's going to be the Vladimir, you'd have to think. Although the Darius is a bit of a flex pick, given we don't know who Gen.G is sending top.
Yeah, and it's also interesting. We saw a couple of Ornn picks alongside the Yi and the Taric for some extra CC to help your Yi get on top of them. But instead of that, they go for just plain damage and fantastic team fighting. Vladimir and Darius together. Once they get fed alongside the Yi with a couple of supports, that's going to be one really terrifying composition.
All right, we are waiting to see where we are going in terms of Gen.G. It looks like Gen.G is going to pick support with the last picks. They are sticking to what I mentioned. They are trying super hard to win the 2v2 and set Ruler up for an advantage. Easier to do on red side than blue side. Counter picking support. It's going to be mid lane Braum again. Going to be the Janna in the bot lane. Is this going to be the duo lane here? It must be. So Vladimir Lulu versus Ashe Janna. You feel like early game, this is not going to be fantastic for the Ashe Janna, but it is the old school duo. I feel like when the European lanes first came to standard, which is AD carry and support back in 2010, this was the duo. It was Ashe Janna many, many moons ago.
Yeah.
Cuvée going to be on his top lane rise. He is the resident top lane rise player in the LCK. But what does a super farm Talia jungle do against an unkillable Master Yi? At some point, not very much. So early game invades, vision control, keeping tabs on Yondu and Ian is going to be so important for Gen.G.
Yeah. It's the biggest thing about this game, right? And if you are going to put that amount of importance on a couple of guys, it will have to be Haru and Fly. This duo has been winning essentially every time they face any other duo. So I do like that Talia for the early game dominance up against Master Yi. We'll see if they can actually flesh that out and also deal with the Darius in the top lane. You don't want to let him get too fed. The Ryze being ranged and not your standard, bruiser / tank in the top lane should have a much easier time of doing that.
Very, very interesting where this game is at. Range advantage in top is good for Gen.G. Bot lane on paper doesn't seem fantastic early, but the Janna, I guess, to have another thing to reset a team fight against a Yi. Yi gets to that right point, though. If Yi gets that cheeky triple kill in the first 15 minutes, who's to say that MVP won't pick up an upset game 1 win over Gen.G?
That's the real question. It's going to come down to the first 15 minutes for this one, potentially. Let's jump into game number 1 and find out. All right, both fan groups really excited to get into this one. The cheers are in. I know a bunch of you people in the Twitch chat and the fans just across the world really enjoying this meta. I feel like the majority of people do. It seems like the fans here in Korea do as well.
I think a lot of people look to people like myself, someone who's big on macro, someone who really loves Korean League of Legends, and think he's probably hating it. He's being paid to say what he's being said, but why is he being so positive? I actually am really enjoying the meta right now. Now, I don't really know how it's all going to finally land. I'm certain that by the time of playoffs, it will be AD carry and support bot lane. But there's a lot of new things to talk about. Because matchups are changing, I like the challenge of looking at evolving drafts, evolving lanes, and understanding what's strength and weaknesses. There's some games that are a bit face roll. I'm looking at MVP with Masi and Taric. But there's a lot to like about the fact that the game is evolving. And while I don't necessarily want this meta forever, I really am enjoying it for the brief time we have.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air, We're kind of getting a little bit stale there with the standard compositions we had in every game.
You can only enjoy
farming, right?
Jhin Taric versus Ashe Janna for so long. You need some vibrancy in the bot lane as level 1. Could say there's a lot of lane presence for the Ashe, doing very well with that. We'll see how the lane evolves, though, in this Vladimir-Lulu duo.
Yeah. Taking a look at the runes here. I think that's actually the lifesteal rune in the domination tree that he has picked. Doesn't take the movement speed or the ultimate cooldown, the new one that we got. Does have the Nimbus cloak from sorcery, which I really do like. Yeah, on a champion like Vladimir.
That's Ravenous Hunter coming through from both the Vladimir and the Taliyah jungle in this game. Usually you see the movement speed one chosen by the jungle players especially. Gathering Storm from Yi is an interesting one, but we'll see if that one is useful as the game goes on. Those are the overlays. And yeah, it will end up being a power farm Taliyah versus a power farmed Master Yi. Again, we've already said heavy advantage for Yi in that particular case, as Taliyah very strong at ganking, very strong at skirmishing with all three abilities at level 3, but doesn't scale with items as well as Yi. In fact, maybe no one scales with items as well as Master Yi. So I'm excited to see, when does Ruler start to push up and put down vision with Core JJ? When does Cuvée, as the range champion, rise, find the deep vision? When do they actually look to shut down Master Yi and Taric? Because in my mind, giving the Master Yi infinite farm can only lead to an MVP victory if the game goes long enough.
Certainly the way it's looking like, right? I mean, you're going to have the 0 CS, basically, Taric, for the majority of the game. He's going to have a couple of items, and he'll press R on the Yi. We know how that works out, but there's all that focus on the Yi. I mean, they have a couple of other champions that really scale fantastically to the Darius and the Vladimir. If the game goes long enough, I really can't see Gen.G keeping up.
I think the Gen.G kind of takeaway message has been that Braum late game is very good against these one carries, so that's why the Braum is there. Braum Camille into Braum Taliyah. So they're going to have to rely on Braum for the CC as the game goes on, and maybe a well-timed reset from the Janna. But it doesn't have the comical hard CC that Gen.G had the last time they faced Master Yi. So if Braum can do it all, maybe then we see a counter pick for the Master Yi combo that can be used in other regions. But to me, that seems bold, given what we've seen of the Master Yi late game.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking about how the mid lane is dead, right? You see Bjergsen playing Taric and Braum every single game, and what does that mean? But you talk about the importance of Braum against this kind of composition, and it's not your standard, I'm going to take the reins and carry the game myself, but it's kind of taking a backseat role for these mid laners who have a somewhat more important role to deal with as the Braum.
Yeah, mid laners, 3 ancient coin start for the side of MVP. It's been standard on Vladimir. On Lulu, it's an option for sure, and not really looking to trade with double range, so you're not going to go for the Frostfang line of items. And the no relic shield on Taric is a little bit surprising, but the extra mana sustain can come through. The coin for picking up the gold. It's more gold generation. It's always been the selfish choice over the relic shield. Makes slightly more if you don't go down the coin line. So looks comical because there's 3 in a row, including the mid lane, but that is the decision in this game. And if you've been laning against those pesky Vladimir bot lanes, do notice that Ruler has gone for a first item Vampiric Scepter next to the Doran Shield for the most sustain. How much sustain going to be worth, though? He's going to have to flash away as Janna had gone on the run.
That was a really awkward mistake, actually. He stepped way too forward for just a couple of seconds. And in pro play, they know exactly when you step too far forward. So they're like, oh, we can go on to this. And even forcing the flash heal away from Ruler this early on is kind of disappointing for that bot lane, for the guy who's talking a lot of trash, saying he's the best AD carry guy and nobody else can play AD carry, so that's why they're not.
And his actual words up mid lane.
Oh, here comes the Yi. We're here. He's only level 6 and already getting on top of Haru there. Doesn't end up getting the kill, but you can already see where that 1v1 rather is going.
At least Seismic Shove is predictable against a Master Yi. Speaking of Yi,
yeah, they're back here again. Stun isn't going to land this time around, but Scuttle does go over to the side of Haru.
If you're unfamiliar with the SPO TV broadcast, see the top right, there is a Scuttle Crab counter for Gen.G and MVP. 2-1 now, so slight lead here for the side of Gen.G, but it's going to be an important battle when both the junglers are about power farming. Whoever gets that advantage with how much gold is loaded onto the new Rift Scuttle is very important.
It's pretty huge. I mean, that's part of the reason why we did see the Talia come in here for that level 2, level 3 power, and getting those Scuttle Crabs, trying to get ahead of Master Yi and Taric. Only one Scuttle Crab ahead for now, though.
We do kind of have to pour one out for Ian. It's his second game on the mid lane Taric, and he already mentioned in his interview the first time, this isn't the game I signed up for. Because he's not going Relic Shield, his CS is going to be even funnier.
Yeah.
He's at 1.
He stole one away from the Master Yi, essentially.
He tried to freeze the wave. Maybe the turret aggroed it. It was a mistake, but that's actually something you could point out and say, a mistake.
He's going to miss the seismic shove, and that means that Haru is in so much trouble right now. The exhaust is going to come down. The stun there from the Braum, but Haru's getting low. Not enough damage, but here comes Taric. First blood for Ian. The carry in the mid lane will pick up the kill.
Big mistake there by Gen.G. They walk up, they're trying to invade and also potentially skirmish, and Yondu's ult's back up. He's going to run straight at them. There's no way for them to fight in such a scenario. Cortide roaming up's not enough. Yondu and Ian, this was the gambit that was sent by Gen.G. They had to know that MVP would be considering it. They fully pulled the trigger. And as the game goes on, they'll have the wild growth. They'll even have a damage amp. Damage amped, free-farmed Master Yi. Sounds like a GG.
It certainly does. I can only imagine what the Twitch chat is spamming about this game so far. Probably involves a lot of Gs. Maybe not Gen.G, though, in a positive sense. Yeah, I mean, they almost got baited into picking that Talia, and so far it hasn't been too successful for winning the early game up against this Master Yi. The stun from the Braum, very important. Nearly saved his life, but the extra damage from Max with the first roam on their side was quite nice.
You see the power of this Ashe and Janna. Just one of those things about Vladimir is that early game does struggle to have the same trading patterns before there is as much loaded into the cooldown on his Q. So Ashe Janna just straight up winning 2v2 is something I didn't put together, but is something that has been important for Gen.G. They played around bot side. They are isolated, and the no jungle attention, being able to visit top or bot lane, is good news for the Ashe Janna, very clearly.
It's working out for them. Let's take another look at the replay. They just walk into no vision. Seismic shove misses, and then, well, Haru, you're in a lot of trouble.
And it's unnecessary from Gen.G. They're looking for a kill. They're not looking to take away a camp. The fact that they're actually looking for more than just parity, that they are actually looking to try to kill, is a sort of greed that Yondu can exploit on this Master Yi. Was kind of gift-wrapped for him on a silver platter, even though Taric was the one who picked up the kill credit.
Yeah, and it was actually a good flash, even though it looked awkward from Max. He flashed the wall to get there on time, and just to secure the kill onto Haru, because he knows just how important it is to get this Master Yi fed.
I wonder if this one will fit into the growing stat line when it comes to 80 carries and non-80 carries in the LCK. Great article released on Twitter by Emily Rand, so at Emily Rand on Twitter, talking about how in Korea we've had 33% of 80 carries win, but even more damning than that is that in a matchup between 80 carry and non-80 carry, in this case Ashe versus Vladimir, 80 carries are at 30%. So the Mordekaisers, the Bruisers of the world, the Mages have all had a very big advantage over the traditional 80 carries, and just too many games have ended before an 80 carries hit 3 items, and that has really put down the numbers. Compare that to other regions. In China, 63% win rate for 80 carries. Europe, 50%. North America, 60%. In Korea, 80 carries so far. Again, we're being results orientated on 1 week. But 80 carries are struggling, and it's probably going to take a couple more weeks of scrims for any team other than Gen.G to find the confidence to actually run that 80 carry in professional play.
Well, Haru in trouble once again. Here comes the E. They have exhaust this time around, though, so again, they push him away and he doesn't get a kill, but that's flash and exhaust taken away from those two members. Pilot in a lot of trouble, though. This 2v2 going so well for Ruler and Core JJ. They pick up another kill.
The Korean representatives are the ones who are giving Gen.G hope. They went for this Ashe Janna. They last picked the Janna. So far, it is definitely turning a trick. We haven't even talked about QV and ADD. They've just been farming it out. Darius, just like what we said about Ashe Janna, had no jungler to respect, so has been able to push up even in a ranged matchup and not worry about being ganked. Teleport on the Vladimir means no secondary turret to Gen.G. So far, so good for the OG EU duo of Ashe and John.
Yeah, it's really interesting just to see the 80 carry showing up, at least in this game when Ruler's playing it. You begin to wonder if the words that he said before actually carry some weight, that actually the people are just not great at the 80 carries. Or is it perhaps that the 80 carry players in Korea are really confident playing other stuff and they're making the meta work for themselves?
I think it's always a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, but you're going to have moments like this where Pilot misplays the trades in lane as Vladimir. We've had Vladimir players who are good in lane, haven't been able to engage. We've seen the converse. Pilot has been decent, but in this particular game, just misjudges a trade, and you'd always take the Korean representative duo, world champion duo of Ruler and Core JJ on ranged AD carry support over a top Korean AD carry, which Pilot was by the end of spring season, on an unfamiliar champion. At this point, 1 week into the season, Vladimir Bot is unfamiliar to everyone in the region.
Yeah. Vladimir, when you're first playing him, it seems pretty simple, right? He's got a couple of damaging abilities. You run at them, you do your combo, and you try to get away with your W or get into the fight. But it's actually it's a lot more subtle than that. It's just his play style, his lack of range as well on all of his abilities. You really have to know how to play that champion into a bottom lane like Ashe Jana.
Well, Ashe Jana are pushing up, and it's even more technical than that, because the great thing about League of Legends is it's not just how do I play my champion. The thing you learn very early when you start playing the game is I actually need to know how the enemy, all their abilities and how they interact. And in a duo lane, knowing the limits of your champion compared to other champions takes so many games. Who's to say Pilot's played one game against Ashe Jana as Vladimir Bot? He probably hasn't. That's just the reality, given that we don't see that much Jana. So it's a very nuanced thing, and just misjudges the double-ranged all-in, and to the detriment of his team.
It's definitely a very good point. You need to know the matchups, and when you haven't played them, you're not going to know them. So a trade takes place just now. The Cloud Drake for MVP almost seemed like a consolation prize, as the top side of the map was totally controlled by Gen.G. They easily rotate over to the Rift Herald, pick that one up, and nearly take down that mid turret. It actually does not go down.
Even just a gust of wind will take it down. We didn't see the HP. I believe it was sub 200. It looked like that, at least from our side.
It's
yeah, it's
sub 100, maybe sub 50 at that point.
I'm going to say 43.
43?
I don't know if we'll ever know, but
I'll say 34.
Okay. Hopefully, SpoTV observers will click on the turret and let us know which of us is right. We very much need to know that. Our selfish information, much more important.
No!
No!
It's gone. Okay, well.
Screw this game.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about it anymore.
It's unimportant now, I guess. But that is 3 turrets, outer turrets here, for Gen.G to 0 from MVP. So even though the Master Yi is very scary, a bit of extra gold headed over to the side of Gen.G.
Does also mean that now the funnel strategy on the Yi is going to be a lot more limited. Once you give up the outer ring of turrets, much easier for Gen.G to shoot up vision. You just ward one side of the jungle, hawk shot the other, and Bob's your uncle. You kind of know the respawn timers on everything. You're very aware of when to invade. Look at the damage dealt numbers, and somehow Darius done 220 damage. That's what melee versus range looks like, I guess.
You would think he would have gotten a couple of Qs off or something, but maybe that's just one. He's still up in CS, so the lane is going in his favor regardless of the damage numbers. I believe that the Rise was on top or near the top compared to our lowest in the Darius.
Straight up Spellbinder from Pilot with CDR boots. He's ready to engage. Hopefully to see some confidence from him. The Master Yi is close to Rageblade, and that's when we saw Yondu really tone it up in his performance now all the way back on the first game of the season. And we still are going to be skeptical of what 193 CS at 16-minute Talia will be able to do. We've seen the Brom Graves a couple of times. It was very, very disappointing when it came to impact from CS. Over in the EUL CS, it was farm up the Kai'Sa twice, and we know how good that champion is with a couple of items. See where Talia is at. He's now looking for an inner turret here, Gen.G.
that pushing power, the Ashe Janna is just once again doing their job, pushing that in, and it's drawing many members of MVP down here. Even the Darius was heading up towards the top lane, and it's putting kind of a hold on the Master Yi show for now.
So what you can do as the comp from Gen.G, where they have the ranged duo of Ashe Janna and good disengage from Janna and Braum, is to 4-1, put down 3 control wards and siege and say, hey, if you want to engage, we've got a lot of disengage. Ashe has 600 range. Let's just take down turrets. And even if you move the Master Yi up, then he's sitting under a turret, not really being able to do anything, and definitely not farming Valdez. And it's one way to actually corral the funnel strategy and bring it to you. And if you're bringing it to you, you're feeling pretty good about where this game is going.
Exactly. I mean, you were talking about controlling that part of the jungle with those control wards. You're even taking away the camps from the Master. You're taking the wolves. You're keeping them behind here. When you're sieging, he can't kill all of the creeps every single time that are pushing into the turret. So you're denying a lot. There's that. There's the scuttle crabs. You have a lot more map vision. And it's all looking good for now, but always keep in mind that you still do have that Master Yi timer in the back of your head. There's the Rage Blade, just as I say it.
But does Master Yi press Highland and run, as Haru just messed that up pretty bad? He decided he really didn't want.
I don't even know what to say after that.
So he actually failed just going for the wall, rode it by accident, and then flashed to get off it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he would have been close enough to be in any danger.
As a
anyway,
Taliyah player, how would you rate that play from Haru?
That's like maybe a 1 out of 10. That's really, really bad. Because especially what I was going to say, you were talking about all that disengage, but it's really important for the Taliyah after getting engaged upon to flash away and then allow Janna and Braum to do their work and then begin throwing stones. That's part of the reason why Taliyah is actually decent if you can disengage, but if you lose your flash by trying to awkwardly wall in the siege and then getting scared halfway through, or maybe even just fat fingering the flash, it's not a good look, to say the least.
Well, let the record show that Valdez threw the first stones at Haru's Taliyah in this particular game. And it has been the thing. We haven't seen much Taliyah jungle in the LCK or in other regions, and when we are seeing it, you do see that things like actually hitting the W particularly well for a jungler who's played sub 30 games of Taliyah is very different to BDD and the best in the world at being able to play that Taliyah. So to me, again, if this works from Gen.G, and so far it's looking pretty good at corralling the Yi. He does have 234 CS, a Rage Blade, some nice items. But if this does work, to me it's a lot about Braum mid as a counter, and then basically any farming jungler is fine, rather than necessarily a 2-part combo. So it's 2 champions, Yi, Taric, and it seems like just Braum, and in this case Braum in the mid lane, has been the way that Gen.G has preferred to attack what is a very potent duo around the world.
Yeah, and as you said before, Gen.G loves to put focus on the bottom lane and winning that lane, and so far that has come to fruition in a big way. Over 70 CS ahead right now is Ruler over Pilot on the Vlad, so just another big source of damage as we do get later on in the game that can potentially try to knock out the carries from MVP.
So when it comes to wards, ward on the red buff, ward on the enemy Krugs. That is the information available, but Hawkshot also gives them map hacks where they don't have the vision down. So going to be close to complete information from Gen.G. If we had a POV stream like the ULCS does, I'm sure the timers would be so many. It would be a timer for literally the respawn of every camp, because tracking the Yi is the only thing Gen.G need to do. That is very much the important takeaway. Now, it isn't full utility with the Master Yi. When we did see it before, it was things like the Lulu in a carry role just to get a lot of ability power. It was Pilot on the Lulu at that time. We did see the biggest success from the funnel strategy was G2 yesterday, who were playing, well, it was kind of 4 a.m. in Korean time, but last night is the easiest way to explain it. Playing with carries in other roles and having multiple threats. Vladimir is a threat. Darius is a threat. It's a multi-threat comp with a Master Yi. So while the Master Yi needs to do the heavy lifting, it's 70-30, not 95-5.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about that, Darius picks up an Aegis already after his Trinity Force, so he's not going to be going full, you know, carry builds here. He's going to be going for supportive items, perhaps. You know, a locket. Will it be a banner? What's coming up next for this Darius? It's not going to be, you know, like Asterix or something like that.
And again, I think AD carry players should look at the bottom scroll and see the 4-minute Vamp Scepter as a first pickup, the Doran Shield start against Lulu, of course, picks and harass. You're going to be able to out-sustain that with the Doran Shield. That's the way through, and Blade has been the preferred item on basically every AD carry, including the Lucianist. All right, engage time.
Here we go. The Radiant's coming on down, but the knockup on Yondu is good. And there's that Janna ultimate. Keeps him in the back. Now there's no longer an ultimate. Now he's still going to be able to get onto that Janna. Can he continue? I'm not so sure. Here's Pilot and ADD. They're wrecking the rest of the team. It's not even only Yi. But at the end of the day, Juve going to come up here, and Haru does stay alive for a triple kill, and Max cannot finish them all.
3 for 4 in the end. Gen.G just get over, but Gen.G had everything up, layered it all, wasted the Highlander. That's the big takeaway. Highlander elapsed before Master Yi got his first kill. No reset on that ability. Not quite the ability to get over the line, but in a future fight, if even one of those tools is down, maybe Yondu can wreck.
Yeah, I mean, that was the fight. It wasn't good enough for them. It actually leads to Haru and Kive pushing this down the mid inhibitor turret without any creeps even. Just gonna take that out, and I was getting excited, man. Even so much damage was coming out from the Vladimir and the Darius in that fight, but in the end, still Gen.G managed to win.
Let's watch the replay. Finally, Yondu thinks this is the time. They go in with the Alpha Strike. He already has the Bastion link. Now he is... Everything works here. He's double knocked away by the seismic shove and Cordede's ultimate. But you notice just times out. 1 second before the Alpha Strike times out when it comes to getting the reset there. Speaking of resets, Darius does some work. They are so close to pulling this off MVP, even though it hasn't been an ideal game. If they can do that again, Highlander has a very short cooldown. It's up already. Who's to say that we can't see a team fight victory for MVP?
Certainly is possible, but you really do have to commend Haru and Kive specifically, and even Core JJ for that masterful Janna ultimate. It was just everything coming together and doing really, really well. Ruler even doing the most damage in the fight before he did go down. Certainly did his job towards the end of that one.
Like you say, damage maximization's really what an Ashe is all about. Now Ashe has decided she will not be a reset on the Highlander. There is a Guardian Angel as the next pickup here. Third item from the Ashe. No Infinity Edge like Deft was building earlier in the season. Again, Ashe is chosen slows for the ultimate as another interrupt. And if she's able to free hit, which seems very unlikely given the Master Yi, Darius, and Vlad. Oh, there's going to be plenty of damage as well. Pilot being significantly far behind is a problem here. Master Yi may have a critical mass, but so does Vladimir. And that critical mass is a long way away, given he doesn't have his second item at 25 minutes.
Oh boy. Okay, so Gen.G pretty far ahead in this one. They're going to go for the Baron.
They have a lot of Baron damage. A lot of Baron damage.
It's pretty insane, guys. Talia, Ashe, and even the Rise too. And with the Talia, you can lay down a wall. Thinking about going over that wall, it is going to end. The Highlander coming on in, but they're trying to TP out. Everybody disappears. The perfect Rise ultimate, super duper clean. Call him Mr. Clean is Gen.G.
Who's to say there's no rotations in the LCK anymore? Beautifully done on the Realm Warp. Goodbye, Master Yi. If that Alpha Strike followed, it would have been hilarious, but that's not how that interaction works.
Yeah.
Gen.G get the Baron through a very lovely play. First with the Talia Weaver's Wall, then most of the flashes were down, and no one likes to flash over the Weaver's Wall to begin. Here is the replay. They're spotted, and then first they put down the Weaver's Wall. There is no flash on the Yi, or the Taric, or the Lulu. Realm Warp is early. Alpha Strike through. Nicely done, Observer, following that one, and, well, that was a bit of a train robbery by Gen.G.
They're looking for more too, and a perfect arrow onto ADD. It's not going to be enough though. ADD though is going to get knocked back. The Q comes out from Braum, and it just looks like they're so confident now. The cleanest play I have seen in a long time, and roaming us 5 now into the bottom lane looking for more picks. Gen.G, they're on a roll.
And this is why I was clapping in Champ Select. We see Master Yi Taric by the only team that succeeded with it against a team that seems happy to leave it open. The team that believes that AD carry is the way forward, which is a big disagreement in Korea. There was a couple of team fights that swung, but so far the big plays have been made by Gen.G. They've got the Baron, they're walking up, and MVP probably only have one team fight left in them.
Now let's see what they can actually do. You were talking about summoners and abilities being down, but everything is basically up now for Gen.G, and they have the Baron and the 9,000 gold lead buying after getting that Baron buff and the extra gold. So it's going to be even harder. Let's see if they can actually pull it off.
Ruler has basically closed the distance on CS with Yondu, of course, with all his jungle being stolen away and sharing farm. He hasn't been able to keep those numbers up, getting those outer turrets down, rotating around the Ashe Janna has been so important for the side of Gen.G. Waiting for Haru to put down that next Weaver's Wall. They can break the base again, that'll be big. They do separate ADD.
Yeah, nice angle there, actually, cutting off the Darius. One of the main guys that's going to be running at you and trying to engage. They just have so much poke and disengage too. The Ashe volley, the Janna tornadoes. Braum to always threaten his disengage. And now they're even going to get a knock up here on a Yondu. Locked down into Ashe Arrow. He does have QSS, but down goes the QSS, all of his health, and the first inhibitor into the second inhibitor here for Gen.G.
Accuracy on that arrow, really important from Ruler to draw more out of the Master Yi. They're looking to end the game, and again, MVP, they got one more attempt. They're going to try it now.
Okay, trying to get onto Kive here is Pilot. The Radiance is going to come down. Look at all the shields, though. But Kive, he does disappear. Here comes the Yi. Keep your eyes on him. Going to get up to Ruler, and they do pop his GA. And ADD even beginning to dunk some people. Ruler is going to go down. And MVP against the run of play, trying to come in here and win. Even ADD getting a little bit off the chain there, but by God, MVP, they're not out of this one yet.
And this is why you know there's always one fight left, just about able to win it. Our MVP, when the summoners are back up, that was the takeaway, Valdez. Notice that the Highlander duration's getting longer. Able to play this one out. The Vladimir getting the first kill was so important on this play. We're actually also watching the red buff be stolen away. Notice the Highlander. Again, that is more important than I can possibly discuss. Yondu does get the reset this time, is able to go in, and that was the difference between this fight and some of the ones previously.
Pilot trying to make up for his week early in mid-game, giving so much gold and kills over to the side of Ashe and almost letting Ruler doing the carrying, but now he's like, nuh-uh, I'm a fed Vladimir, I'm up to my 2 important items, I'm over level 9, and now I'm going to begin to really be a big threat outside of the Yi. As I said before, it's not just about him, it's about that scary Darius and Vladimir slowly scaling up too.
7 seconds is the duration of Highlander, and choosing the right time to use it is going to be something that is a bit of a skill cap. People are not dying instantly. There is a lot of disengage. Getting that first pick is so crucial to MVP, and it's the difference between a one team fight and a lost one. Talia did so much damage kiting back, yet it wasn't something that could be pivotal in the fight that just happened. Gen.G have all the advantages in the world, and yet we all sit back and wonder, is it enough?
Well, they do have the ability to take another turret here with the Weaver's Wall. The duration did get nerfed, but it looks like Pilot is trying to threaten and engage before the wall comes down, which I do like. I feel like Gen.G is still far enough ahead to push with the wall and maybe get the turret, but after that they really have to be careful because you never really know who's going to win that fight. And uh-oh, MVP rotating into the mid lane. Going to be zoned out now by that Weaver's Wall, but it's not a long enough duration. Here comes Master Yi.
Ult's already popped.
Going to be slowed down. He gets on the Ruler here. The knock-up, though, and the Radiance, really good timing. The knock-up from Lulu's every hand. Unbelievable from ADD. Gets on in there. A double kill for Yondu. And guys, this game is not over.
Holy moly. That was so big there. MVP made a massive mistake. They all went mid lane as 4, and then the Weaver's Wall was able to cut them all off. They get a couple of kills, they lose an inhibitor. Maybe the collateral damage of losing all their inhibitors will decide this game, because the team fights straight up are looking very, very tricky for Gen.G.
It's really rough for them now, and you know what usually happens when you take down these inhibitors? The Master Yi can sit back, be pushed into, get even more and more farm. They don't even get that inhibitor. Yondu able to get onto Ruler, who was too far forward. Kind of misunderestimating the time of that Weaver's Wall. Maybe he was expecting the old Weaver wall timing.
This is a lovely wombo of Master Yi being a conduit for the ultimate from Lulu, the Wild Growth, into a huge apprehend from Darius. Didn't even have flash to pull that one off.
Walked
Just
up.
able to walk up through the knock-up of the Wild Growth. Wild Growth into apprehend, a new wombo we didn't know about.
Yeah.
MVP need to push out. They need to find a way to get a grouped fight outside of their base, but with 2 inhibitors down and 1 begging to be taken down by Gen.G, it is going to be so hard for them to force a fight. It feels like Gen.G played the waiting game. They already have a lot of Baron damage. If they get the Baron and are able to bring in 2 Baroned up minion waves, how can MVP recreate the last couple of fights?
Yeah, and I feel like this might be the first, or probably the most important game we've had where the inhibitor timers really, really matter because they're almost about up. And if those get up and they can push out the waves and try to contest the Baron as well, then, I mean, anything can happen here. We're going to have a one-on-one. Pilot versus Cube. Doesn't look like Pilot's confident to take that fight, actually.
They're able to dissuade Gen.G from finishing the Baron. They don't want a 50-50 smite. No Fiestas around there, so MVP just push up the mid lane. It's Frozen Mallet on the Yi, just trading upon having a bit more extra health.
Here he comes.
He popped his ultimate, but he does get Q'd.
Oh, boy.
That's
Maybe reaching a little bit for that fight.
Wasn't in range to Alpha Strike through the Q, and thus was disengaged with 1 ability. Cuvée just auto-attacking down this inhibitor in the bot side. Pilot's 2 levels down, doesn't feel confident enough. 3 items to run at the Rise, and maybe not the worst decision he ever made, although ADD.
ADD should be confident to come on in here. That phase rush is going to help out Cuvée, but sorry, buddy. Let's see if you can actually do it. 1 ult, very close, but the shield here is really good. Cuvée, 1 more Overlord is not going to actually hit. And a very close fight between ADD and Cuvée and the Baron going over to Gen.G.
Cuvée has been a top lane Rise player in and out of meta for 4 years now, so he has mastery of his champion. The last Overload would have got a kill, doesn't. No fadeaway kill there. And Baron was taken because they saw 2 people bot lane, so still was overall successful for the side of Gen.G. All they can do is once again push out their waves. My question is though, Valdez, is getting the Baron or keeping all 3 inhibitors alive more important for the side of MVP? Because honestly, the Baron buff does give those extra combat stats. It does allow them to play a 1-3-1. But with 3 inhibitors up, it gives the MVP more places to stand to try to force a fight because they don't have to respect the minions, and maybe they feel like with just the champions they have, they can run at a Baron buff enemy and beat them in a 5v5.
And you were talking about trying to force a fight. This is really suspicious. Only Pilot there, and they throw down some wards. They spot them there, and MVP, they're saying, hey, go ahead and try to take the inhibitor. Well, you'll be forced into a fight then.
But Gen.G can just walk around, ward every entrance that a Master Yi can come from, and never be flanked. That's what they will do. However, like I mentioned, MVP don't have any inhibitors down, so actually, this game extends. ADD gets a minion wave of farm. He couldn't when the Baron buff was up. They're able to get more and more resources around the map now, and that could prove really important for the side of MVP. It means this game will become a 60,000 plus gold game.
Yeah. That it will, and even the banner I was talking about on EDD is going to help out pushing out that bottom lane. Just 1 lane they don't have to worry about. They can stick here in between the top and the middle lanes and just defend, and Gen.G still not super confident to take a fight underneath the turret right now.
Banner pushing out bot lane, so now they're only playing 2 lanes, even easier for MVP to protect here. We've got that point down. I wanted to re-emphasize it because we do have this nice little overlay now to show they're pushing forward.
Dot.
Here's the Weaver's Wall. Now they are split by this.
Yondu in the front here. And look at ADD from the top side. There it is, the engaged Pilot trying to get on top of everyone. But actually, Haru will get the kill off the Lulu. Doesn't matter, though. Here's the Master Yi, and Fly getting super low. Yondu in the front line does have that GA still available. Ruler did have the stopwatch, but it's not enough. The apprehend on a Cuvée with the shields. He is going to take out the Master Yi, but not the other 2 carries. Now that Darius and the Vlad are really showing up.
Wasn't an ideal fight at all by MVP. They lost the Lulu super early before Wild Growth even happened. Dies with his summoners up. The Highlander was timed out as well, and yet They still inch forward, and yet Ruler will have his summoners down for a significant amount of time. This game's extending to those extra innings you never want to be in. It's the Mata combo, the Master Yi and the Taric. The Weaver's Wall separates Ian. Watch Max, who gets popped at the start of this fight. And, okay, this is the time. He dies to one rotation of spells from Haru. Nicely done by the team fight jungle Talia, and yet, despite everything being up, so many delays from Ruler and friends, MVP still come out ahead.
It really raises the question, right? Ruler talks about how much AD carries are still in the meta and still viable, but can you really play Ashe, even with the Guardian Angel and the stopwatch? You know, just trying to stick alive for so long. How does he even survive against all of that? You're going to have a E on top of you if they close the gap onto you, and Ashe is not going to be able to do much.
Does also raise the question of, can we be really confident in our strategy of counterpicking bot lane if we don't ban the Master Yi or Taric? I feel like any other strategy, you're feeling pretty good. Even Nunu Karthus like, okay, there's counterplay this. Stasis very good against it. With Master Yi and Taric, Ashe is a bit of free food, just like Olaf into Ashe proved to be in spring season. I don't think it's sheepish or anything to hold against Gen.G if they're banning Master Yi or Taric. Kingzone's doing a lot of the best teams in Korea are trying to stop this particular version of the funneling strategy. Yondu walks around. Guardian Angel was completed already. Now he's a QSS, so he's getting that utility that he knows he needs. The moment you see someone going Frozen Mallet, Guardian Angel, and QSS, you know that they're pretty confident they can deal enough damage. The Darius also has actually got a pretty high damage build after the Banner of Command, including armor penetration on Darius. Very interesting. MVP push up, see what they can make happen.
Well, nice bit of damage on Ian, but as long as he's alive to press R, doesn't really matter. He does have that healing too. I thought perhaps Haru would look for some kind of wall and then take a 5v3 for 5-6 seconds, but not going to be looking for it. They give up another inner turret, and slowly that gold gap is closing. Only about 5,000 gold ahead now is Gen.G. And we asked the question before, which composition is going to be better once we do get to, max items, and so far it's looking like MVP.
The just CC him approach to Master Yi has been something that has been laughed at for many years. One of the oldest League of Legends memes I know. Just CC her about Katarina at her full level of power into many other champions who've proven toxic in terms of gameplay, and Master Yi in the late game, I could definitely see the argument. So hard to find true counterplay there. Has the QSS, has a Mikhails, has a Shirelli, has a Redemption, a lot of utility. Counterplay in the early game in a normal Master Yi game is gank it or find meaningful ways to shut down his farm. Usually the cost of Master Yi is that he's not affecting any lanes because he's hard farming, and yet this is a meta where you can find a way to let him cheat. He's got the answer key to that early game problem, and that's why we get to this point where Master Yi is now at 65,000 gold. Gen.G played so well at shutting this down around the fast pushing. The problem with fast pushing is you get down all those easy objectives, and then at some point you have to fight. And even though that's over a single inhibitor turret, that fight is proving too much for Gen.G the last 3 to 4 times.
Yeah, it's kind of looking like 8.1 when we had Sivir Azir sitting underneath Nexus turrets, and the games just wouldn't end, except this is scaling a lot faster in terms of the... okay, that does go down to the bleed. In terms of the Master Yi, Vladimir, and Darius with 2 supports.
Oh, baby. They don't know they're there.
Okay. Well, Gen.G, you might be in a little bit of trouble. They're trying to get onto ADD, though. He's getting super low. Gonna get onto Haru, but he goes down immediately. Here's Yondu, though, with the Radiance. He will be knocked up by everything, trying to get onto that backline. But can he do the damage? He might be able to on the Pilot. Now getting onto Fly, but he's gonna be all alone here. He has the Vladimir, but it's not enough. Trying to jump on in, he dies mid-Alpha Strike, and down they go, Gen.G. They find ADD, a separated MVP will go down.
The creeping death they thought was there was actually ADD himself going down first. They were out of position as a 5. The side wards worked, ADD died, and so do MVP.
Just like that, one wrong team fight, and Gen.G able to separate MVP. They take the win, and in one way they do defeat that Master Yi turret combination.
They high-five each other, but they know this proved so much more difficult than it seemed to be 20 to 25 minutes in. What is your takeaway from this if you are the coach of Gen.G? Is it our strategy worked, or we should have just banned the Yi?
I'd say go ahead and ban that Yi. Just in general, that strategy of having those supports hang around, especially the Yi, but even just saying, no, we're not going to provide extra CC for the Master Yi. We're just going to give extra options and another a couple of really good scaling damage dealers. And, well, as you said it before, I mean, Gen.G kind of rubbing the back of his neck there was Fly. They're like, I'm not so sure. And even tears coming out when MVP comes up on screen.
You see MVP, ADD on the right of your screen knows that he unfortunately was the one out of position that allowed this to be such a slam dunk, no pun intended, for the side of Gen.G to find a collapse. ADD's walking through. We know that there was a flank happening, but he's spotted because he walks out of the brush while taking Raptors. Dying at 40+ minutes taking Raptors is a rookie mistake, and ADD no longer is a rookie. That means it starts 4v5. Also, people are flashing just to begin the fight. So much was used in an unconventional manner and in a manner that didn't allow them to maximize their resource on the side of MVP. Unfortunately, they had to flash to get to the race. They needed the flash in the race. So sadly, for the MVP fans, they do go down.
Yep, such an awkward way to lose that one for MVP. ADD spotted outside the brush, and then he tries to walk down, and he sees Rise coming at him, and he's like, well, I guess I just accept my fate, try to go in there. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, and no way to engage with your team. So guys, after that wild game one, we are going to take a 10-minute break and come back with game number 2.